Who were the Etruscans? To most people today, their name drifts in and out of history books like a faint shadow, overshadowed by the grandeur of Greece and the might of Rome. And yet, in the centuries before Rome rose to dominate the Mediterranean, the Etruscans were the masters of central Italy, builders of thriving cities, skilled artists, seafarers, and merchants. They were the people who passed on ideas, symbols, and institutions that would shape Roman civilization itself, and through Rome, Western history. Their story is one of mystery, brilliance, and eventual disappearance, leaving behind traces of a culture both familiar and strange. To truly ask who the Etruscans were is to step into a forgotten world, half remembered, half obscured, and yet undeniably vital. The origins of the Etruscans have long puzzled historians. Ancient writers themselves disagreed. Herodotus, the Greek historian, believed they came from Lydia in Asia Minor, sailing across the sea to settle in Italy. Dionysius of Halicarnassus, on the other hand, insisted they were native to the land, sprung from the soil of Italy itself. Modern archaeology suggests a more complex story. The Etruscans appear to have emerged from the Villanovan culture of early Iron Age Italy, around 900 BCE, though trade with the Eastern Mediterranean infused their society with foreign ideas and styles. Genetic studies point to local roots with some Eastern connections, suggesting that the Etruscans were both indigenous and influenced by broader Mediterranean currents. What we know for certain is that by the 8th century BCE, they had become a distinct people, with their own language, customs, and identity. That language remains one of the enduring mysteries of the Etruscans. Unlike Latin or Greek, it does not belong to the Indo-European family of languages, and while thousands of inscriptions have survived on tombs, mirrors, pottery, and plaques, our understanding is limited. Scholars can read Etruscan words phonetically, and some meanings are known, especially names and common phrases, but much remains obscure. It is as though we are listening to an echo of a voice we cannot fully understand. And yet, through this language, they named their gods, their ancestors, and their cities, leaving us tantalizing glimpses of their world. The Etruscans were not a single unified nation, but a collection of city-states, much like the Greeks. Each city, such as Veii, Tarquinia, Cerveteri, Clusium, and Volterra, was politically independent, ruled by kings or aristocratic families. Together, they formed what later sources call the Etruscan League, a confederation of 12 cities bound by common religion and festivals, though not always acting in unity. These cities flourished in fertile lands between the Arno and Tiber rivers, rich in minerals, agriculture, and trade routes. They became prosperous through commerce with the Greeks, Phoenicians, and other Mediterranean powers. Etruscan merchants traded metalwork, wine, and luxury goods, while importing fine Greek pottery and Oriental objects. Their ports on the Tyrrhenian Sea made them formidable seafarers, sometimes feared as pirates by the Greeks, but always recognized as significant players in Mediterranean trade. Daily life in Etruscan society was shaped by both wealth and ritual. Archaeological discoveries, particularly from their tombs, reveal a people who loved feasting, music, and games. Frescoes painted on the walls of burial chambers show men and women reclining together on couches, eating, drinking, and listening to music, an image strikingly different from Greek practice, where women were usually excluded from banquets. Etruscan women appear to have enjoyed more freedom and visibility than their Greek or Roman counterparts. They could attend banquets, own property, and sometimes even pass down family names. This shocked Greek observers, who found Etruscan customs scandalous. But it speaks to a society with its own unique values. Religion lay at the heart of Etruscan identity. They believed the universe was governed by divine will, which could be read in signs and omens. Their priests, known as haruspices, practiced divination by examining the entrails of sacrificed animals, especially the liver, searching for messages from the gods. This practice was so respected that Rome later adopted it wholesale, employing Etruscan seers to guide important decisions. They also observed the flight of birds, lightning in the sky, and other natural phenomena, interpreting them as messages from the divine. The Etruscans saw the world as infused with supernatural forces. and proper rituals were essential to maintaining harmony between humans and gods. Their pantheon included deities that later merged with Roman ones, Tinia, Uni, and Menva, for example, who correspond to Jupiter, Juno, and Minerva. Through them, Rome inherited not just gods, but an entire way of structuring religious life. Art and architecture showcased the Etruscans' creativity. They excelled in bronze casting, producing intricate mirrors, statues, and ceremonial objects. Their pottery imitated Greek styles, but with local twists, while their wall paintings burst with color and vitality. In architecture, they pioneered techniques that influenced Roman building, such as the use of the arch. Their temples, though few survive above ground, were distinctive, built on high podiums with wide steps and deep porches. Unlike Greek temples, the Romans would later adapt this model for their own religious architecture. Even the famous Roman toga traces its origin to Etruscan dress, a reminder of how deeply Etruscan culture was woven into Rome's fabric. The Etruscans were also skilled engineers. They drained marshes, built roads, and developed advanced irrigation systems to harness the landscape for agriculture. They mastered metalworking, drawing on the rich iron deposits of Tuscany, which would give the region its later name. Their military prowess was well known, and they fought both among themselves and against neighbors. At times, they expanded their influence south into Campania and north into the Po Valley, creating a wide sphere of control. Yet they were also vulnerable, and their position in central Italy meant constant encounters with ambitious rivals. One of those rivals was Rome. In its early centuries, Rome was deeply entangled with Etruscan power. Some of Rome's early kings, including the Tarquins, were of Etruscan origin, and under their rule, Rome grew in sophistication, gaining monumental architecture, religious practices, and political institutions influenced by Etruscan models. The Great Cloaca Maxima, Rome's massive sewer system, was attributed to Etruscan engineering. The Roman practice of gladiatorial combat is thought to have evolved from Etruscan funerary games, where contests were held in honor of the dead. Even the symbols of Roman authority, the fasces, bundles of rods surrounding an axe, were inherited from the Etruscans, who used them as emblems of magisterial power. Yet Rome would also be the agent of Etruscan decline. In the 5th and 4th centuries BCE, the balance of power shifted. Greek colonists challenged Etruscan dominance at sea, defeating them at battles such as Cumae in 474 BCE. Celtic tribes invaded from the north, pressing into Etruscan territory. And most decisively, Rome began expanding, gradually conquering one Etruscan city after another. Veii fell after a long siege in 396 BCE, a turning point that signaled Rome's rise and Etruria's fading independence. Over the following centuries, the Etruscans were absorbed into the Roman Republic, their cities granted varying degrees of citizenship, their culture assimilated. By the time of the late Republic, the Etruscan language was no longer spoken widely, replaced by Latin, and their distinct identity dissolved into the Roman world. But disappearance is not the same as extinction. The Etruscans left their mark in countless ways. Roman religion, architecture, political symbols, and even social customs carried Etruscan fingerprints. Without the Etruscans, Rome would not have been the same city, nor would the civilization that spread across Europe. Today, the Etruscans survive in their tombs, their art, and their lingering mysteries. Walking through their necropolises, one sees houses for the dead carved in stone, painted with scenes of feasts and dances, echoing a people who embraced both the pleasures of life and the inevitability of death. Their world speaks to us in fragments, inviting us to piece together a picture of a society both foreign and familiar. The question of who the Etruscans were cannot be answered in a single word. They were traders and warriors, artists and engineers, priests and visionaries. They were a people deeply connected to their land, yet open to the wider Mediterranean. They were rivals and teachers of Rome, both conquered and immortalized by their conquerors. Their story is a reminder that history is not only written by the victors, but also preserved in the legacies absorbed into larger empires. The Etruscans remind us that even when a people vanish as a distinct culture, their influence can endure, shaping the destinies of those who follow. In the end, The Etruscans remain enigmatic, their language only partly known, their origins debated, their full history never completely revealed. Yet in their mystery lies their allure. They invite us to imagine a world before Rome, to hear the voices of a people who celebrated life, honored the gods, and left behind a civilization that helped lay the foundations of the Western world. Who were the Etruscans? They were the forgotten architects of Rome, the hidden ancestors of European culture, and a civilization whose spirit still whispers through the ruins of Italy.